Hello and welcome back to another video. In this video, I wanted to talk about the archetypes that Carl Jung mentions in his career, his works, and in everything that he regards as psychoanalysis. So, Carl Jung was unique because he was the first psychoanalyst who was actually actively studying the Vedic systems and was trying to understand Buddhism and different Eastern traditions. And of course, he did tremendous work in the psychological field, and a lot of people have gained help through his work. So I wanted to talk about the archetypes that he mentions in his works, and these four archetypes that I want to concentrate on in this video are the king, the magician, the lover, and the warrior. Now, I want to first start this with a personal experience of what these archetypes actually meant for me and how Carl Jung actually and his psychoanalysis actually helped me because I was very fragmented. I had it felt as if I had multiple personalities, and it felt as if I was living completely different fragmented realities, and sometimes I would be in a complete chaotic stage where I couldn't handle all these archetypes inside me. So I talk a lot about identity and a lot about individuality in this channel, and I wanted to also in this video I wanted to give you advice on how to handle these identities that we create over time with different people. So the first thing I want to mention here is that these identities that we play in this world can all be integrated and related to each other. And this can be done through a lot of work and through a lot of what Carl Jung calls shadow work, or what in many traditions is called contemplation or self-reflection. Now, self-reflection and contemplation can be seen in many esoteric traditions, not only Carl Jung's psychoanalysis. In fact, many of the traditions have their own language that they have developed, and their own way of interpreting these archetypes. And somehow the wisdom is the same, but the language and the structure of how it is presented is different. So in Islam, we have something called muraqabah, where you are self-contemplating on the nature of identity and self-contemplating on your nafs, or your ego. And in many traditions, in Vedic traditions, and if you look at Bhagavad Gita, there have been many mentions of this. So Carl Jung, what I feel that Carl Jung did is he integrated these knowledge and presented in a way that a Western mind can actually understand it in a clearer manner, instead of trying to understand the language and the culture of different traditions. He presented it in such an ingenious manner that it will be easy for anybody to understand. So let us look at how it affected me. As it made me understand that it's okay to have fragmented identities, where one of the identity wants to be in power, or one of the identity wants to learn things, and one of the identities is like a child, and it is okay to be childish sometimes. And of course, there is the obsessiveness of a lover, and the perfectionism of a magician, and the over talking of a wise magician. And these all, when integrated, can bring a person into an inner balance and an inner calm. So it helped me understand these identities and integrate them together, and design my days and my life in such a way that gives balance to the inner child in me and the other identities in me. So there is balance of the warrior, there is a balance of the king, the balance of the magician. If the warrior is getting too animalistic, the king is there to bring him into order. If the magician is becoming too much obsessed with knowledge, the child is there to bring him back to to open him up to wonders and to his curiosity. And the child is there to fuel this curiosity into the magician. And so on and so forth. These archetypes can help each other, and it can help you understand why you dream certain dreams, why you have certain wishes and certain desires. So Carl Jung mainly suggests worked on the collective unconscious. So the collective unconscious is the memory that stores every experience that every human being has in this world, and we as fragmented human beings are able to access this collective unconscious, and most of our actions and most of our experience of this life comes from this collective unconscious. It can also be looked at as the inherent gene that is within us, the genetic material that we are all made up of, and through this genetic material, our actions are similar in certain ways. So now let us understand these archetypes that arise from this collective unconscious. The first archetype is the king. The king archetype is the one who wants to be in power, the one who wants to command and be dominative, the one who wants to be advised in different realms of knowledge, the one who wants to at the same time be able to give orders to his ministers and to be able to rule. Now, this is in the sense of a kingdom, but it can also be looked at as from our own life, from our own domain. Now, the king is there to make you rise in your career. The king is there to make you grow into and be in a powerful position in this life. The king is there to command those who are not capable of judging for themselves. The king is there to to command even your own self, to command the warrior in you, to bring order into the chaotic world of your mental realm. Now, now the king manifests in each and every one of us in different forms, in different stages of our lives. You will find yourself eventually attracted to the king if a man doesn't eventually get into connection with his king energy or with the source of king energy, then he is not able to dominate or exert power. And this exertion of power is actually something that is very natural, and it can help a boy turn into man. It can help a boy become more mature. And of course, there is the shadow part of the king, which is the tyrant, or which is the dictator who becomes very narcissistic and self-centered in nature. Now, these shadow parts can be controlled only when you introduce the other archetypes. So the shadow part of a dictator can be balanced by the archetype of the lover or the magician or the warrior in certain ways. So the lover can bring back the interconnectedness that the lover feels with the universe to balance out the shadow part of the king inside each and every one of us. Now, this is not mainly about the masculine, the masculine, the men psychology, but it is also true in women's psychology as well, because we are not really that different from each other. Our forms are different, and there are certain aspects of our masculinity and femininity that is dominating. But eventually, we find that we are balancing these masculine and feminine attributes. Now, the masculine form has the feminine aspect of his archetypes as well, up to a certain extent, and this is called anima by Carl Jung himself. And in the feminine form, there is the masculine aspect for these archetypes, and that is called the animus. So, so the king and queen are similar in nature. They have the inherent ability or the inherent dominative nature in them. And it is important to recognize this and give it fuel whenever it arises for us. And when you give it full fuel and when you are in connection with this king energy and when you do certain activities or when you live a life in a certain way that gives power to this king energy, then you will see that you are able to access the king energy at will whenever you command it. You are able to get in touch with it whenever you want to get in touch with it. Whereas if the other archetypes are not balancing the king, then you will tend to become more narcissistic and more dictatorial in certain ways and controlling, self-controlling in certain ways. So it is important to also understand the shadow aspects of this king archetype, and I will prescribe a method in which you can see these shadow forms of the king archetype, and you can actually understand where the work is needed. So writing and shadow work is essential for whenever you want to interact with these archetypes inside you and whenever you want to integrate. And trust me, like integration is a process. It is a continuous process. It can even take 3 or 4 years to make you establish and make you recognize these archetypes in yourself. The first thing that we can do to understand these archetypes well is to do what is called shadow work, and that is to keep a journal, and always record your dreams. I usually do this in the mornings and in the morning pages that I write. Now, there is another book I'm referring to here, which is called The Artist's Way, and in that book, the author describes and prescribes the morning pages, and it helped me a lot in understanding the different archetypes that are in work that are generating my identity here in this world. And I highly recommend you go and read that book because it's a very easy to read book, and the major things that you can get out of that book are the the morning pages that she recommends and the artist day. That is the one day where you're taking the artist out to do a creative activity with your artist in you. So coming back to shadow work, the best thing that you can do is to journal and to keep a journal and write down whatever thought comes to you, and do something that is called active imagination. That is, you are consciously writing whatever thought that is generating, and you are in the process of writing, you are actually opening yourself up and opening all the blockages that are stopping you from writing these thoughts down. Now, even the anger, even the resentment needs to be put down into the paper so that you can look at it later on. And when you look at it, that is when you recognize the shadow self of the king, of the magician, of the divine child, of the warrior, and you can actually see that how the shadows are working behind the scenes. And then you can help balance them and figure out what is actually going on. But I also highly recommend you talk to a psychoanalyst or a therapist before you if you find something that is more if you uncover something about yourself that is very harmful or that is very traumatic in nature. And of course, we all have, to a certain extent, some of the demons that are hidden inside us, because it is not just associated with the society, and a lot of the things can happen to us. A lot of traumatic experience can happen to us, and they can lead you to actually just block these traumatic experiences, and without even trying to uncover what actually happened in that experience. So I also highly recommend you talk to a therapist if you encounter something like that in your dreams or in your daydreams or in your active imaginations. So moving on, let us now understand the second archetype, the magician archetype, which is more technical and which is more practical in nature, who wants to get into the wisdom and who wants to understand different sciences, who wants to be who wants to do research in a certain topic and who wants to use his capabilities of the mind to interrelate different things and to understand different things. Now, the magician acts like a wizard. He or she wants to impart wisdom onto others. He or she wants to gain wisdom from elders. He or she is trying to understand everything about this universe. He or she is trying to uncover the magic inside this universe, and he is trying to research things in the world. Now, for some people, the magician is, and especially in this day and age, we see that this is the day and age of magicians because technicians are highly regarded here in this world, and I mean software developers and technicians of all sorts because because this is the day and age of technology. So so each and every aspect and archetype that we are talking about here, we can utilize them and we can recognize them in our work or in our relationships. What happens when you interact with other people is that you unconsciously use these archetypes to interact with each other. So you may find that you are somehow like a magician or a wisdom imparting guru to someone, or you may find that you are a king to someone. You may find that you are a child with someone, and you may find that you are a lover with someone. And so these archetypes can be also recognized when you are interrelating with your fellow human beings, with your social interactions. So, so moving on uh, to the shadow aspects of the magician. Now the magician likes to work a lot. He or she likes to exert his brain, to exert his power, and to research and to seek the truth and to learn all these different abstract concepts and to understand and to dominate others through his intellectual power and through his wisdom. And of course, you may get a hint of what his shadow part will be. His or her shadow part will be the trickster, or the joker, who will try to who will try to make other people feel bad about themselves using false language or using bad words or using trickery to make a person feel bad about themselves. Now of course, or he can or just boast his knowledge to others and be very exerting whenever he's talking and he's not really listening to other people. So this is the shadow aspect of the magician, and there are other aspects also, and you can certainly read about these things in a book by Robert Moore, who was a psychoanalyst and who wrote the book called King.Magician.Lover.Warrior. Now, his book is a great resource for anyone who is interested in the Jungian psychoanalysis. So then moving on to the next aspect, or the lover energy. Now, the lover inside each and every one of us takes its form or shows us its energy one way or the other, and especially when you are young, when you are when you look at a woman or when you look at a man, or when you want to feel connectedness with your fellow human beings. Now, the lover can also be like a devotee praying to his god. The lover can also be closely related to spirituality, and he or she is also the one who feels and who wants to be felt, the one who sees and who wants to be seen. And the lover manifests himself in our relationships the most. But of course, there is, and I talk about the lover and utilize the lover and explain to you the interconnectedness of the world in my channel here on YouTube. And of course, there are people who are more connected to this energy, to the lover energy. Now, the lover is very passionate. He, the lover's energy can be used to fuel you in your passionate endeavors, to fuel you in your artistic endeavors. And only a person who is hurt in love will understand uh, the need to be seen, will understand that a tremendous amount of energy arises in you when you are rejected, when this lover is rejected inside you. And of course, it happens to a lot of young boys, especially in this day and age. People get rejected all the time, and when you get rejected, certain energy arises in you. It can be very negative also. It can lead to self-destruction. Uh, the famous stories of Shakespeare utilize this archetypal nature of the lover, and it can be very self-destructive in nature, and can also alienate you from your family. But eventually, the more mature form of the lover is the lover when you are in unity. You will eventually find that the highest form of the lover, is when he or she is in love with God. He or she is in love with the universe. He and she is in love with his own soul, his own higher consciousness. Now, there are obviously the negative aspects and the shadow aspects of the lover, and this can manifest in forms such as the addictive nature of man, the addictive nature, the impulsive nature of man, and sometimes it can lead you into drugs and alcoholism and many other compulsive disorders that we have here. So the lover needs to be balanced with the king, with the magician, and with the child. So moving on to the next archetype, it is the next archetype is the warrior archetype, and I feel that men sometimes are more connected to the warrior archetype, which is inherent in even women. But in this day and age, I see the fall of this archetype. I see that the warrior archetype is not really looked at as a respectful archetype because of the rise of feminism and all the misconceptions about feminism. Now, so I won't go into the political details about these things and start opinionating about these things. So let us understand what the warrior archetype is, and let us understand why it is really needed for a man to become whole and to integrate himself and to reach that state of inner calm. Now, I see that a lot of people and a lot of men in this day and age are suffering because they don't have the connection to the warrior archetype, or they are not courageous enough. They are not challenging themselves. They are not adventurous enough to face different challenges. They are more anxious. They are more depressed. And I understand that everybody goes through such a phase, but eventually you'll have to recognize that as a man or as a woman in this society, will eventually have to be connected to the warrior archetype, who is more courageous, who is more adventurous, and who is more furious in nature. Who is more uh, who can derive his energy from self-exertion and from not exerting not only in physical activities but in intellectual endeavors. The need of warrior is certainly there, and sometimes the decisions of the warrior are harsh to the other people. Sometimes the decisions of the warrior may require you to to say some things to other people or do some things that are harsh for them. But eventually, you will have to realize that when you get in connection with the warrior nature, all these things are courageous. They will lead you towards exploration, towards adventure, and towards courage. Now, when you connect to the warrior in you, in each and every one of us, you will understand that anxiety resolves by its own. You will understand that life is a challenge sometimes, and you will be able to actually enjoy effort and actually enjoy challenge. You'll be able to look at these challenges and be able to try to conquer them in a way that a warrior will try to conquer in a war. Now you will also be strategic in manner. You will also try to understand how to use other warriors, and you will also try to be disciplined and orderly. Now this is really important. This is a really important characteristic that every young man should develop in himself. And this is the capability of disciplining yourself and to bringing order from the chaotic sense of this world. And you will have to divide your day in such a way that you are giving these mainly these four archetypes, certain time to flower them, to make them who they are. And you are utilizing them in your day-to-day life. You are utilizing the domination and the wisdom of the king. You are utilizing the magician to train the magician, and to utilizing the inner child to paint, to do artistic things, to keep the wonder and the innocence alive. You are also utilizing the warrior to keep the fuel, the fire in you uh, going on, to and you're also utilizing the lover to keep you more passionate, to be more interconnected with the world, to fuel the other archetypes with the passion that it has, with the love that it feels. So that's it for this video. And if you are new to this channel, I highly recommend you subscribe to my channel, because I keep uploading daily content here, and I keep talking about my own experiences with spirituality and psychology and philosophy. And so, thank you for watching this video. I hope you got something out of it, and I will also mention a few things that you can do to integrate all these archetypes and to recognize them. The first thing is obviously the shadow work, or writing your daydreams, writing your night dreams, writing everything that comes up as weird to you, writing them down and actually looking at them and reading them again and again and trying to understand in which parts balance is required. Sometimes we are so focused on one thing that we tend to miss the other thing. Sometimes we are so focused on our work that we find that we are not connected to the inner child, with the play aspect of the lover, or with the sometimes we are so focused with the dominion or with the dominative power of the king that we are not focused on actually learning things like a magician. And sometimes we are so focused on self-improvement that we forget that we can also paint, or we can also write short stories, we can have fun sometimes. So thank you for watching this video. The first thing is to write and keep journals. The second thing is to be aware and do something called muraqaba, or what is called contemplation or self-reflection. Self-reflection is really important and can help you understand what is going on in your mind. And you can set aside half an hour of time and actually look into your mind and look at what aspects of the mind need to be balanced. And so these two practices can help you go a long way in your journey. So thank you for watching this video, and happy integration.